be strong in this time, son. I'm a survivor. I will survive, I will survive. And I'm a firm believer. We'll forever shine just to stay alive. That simple means say, nobody can hold me, man. Nobody can drain my energy. Nobody can control me, stick. I will not allow negativity. Nobody can hold me, man. Nobody can drain my energy. Nobody can. Everybody show me some strength. No weakness, show me a man. Strength, no weakness, show them who we are. Strength, no weakness, show me a man. Everybody strength, no weakness, show them who we are. And when you roll, your enemies they must tremble. Your enemies they must tremble. Yo, and when you roll, everything has to humble. Everything has to humble. Fella, put my trust in God. Put my trust in God. That simple means say nobody.
Williams Funeral Service serve you with dignity and compassion as you mourn. Every day, we embark on the journey of life, and one day, the journey will end. It's on that day that you can entrust the celebration of life of your loved ones to David Williams Funeral Service. Call 718-291-3823.
Yeah. You gotta be firm in this time, son. You gotta be strong in this time.
Ride along. Welcome to the ride. Welcome to Monday on the ride. Woy. What a Monday, Jed. Unofficial Carnival Monday in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. There are so much things happening around the Caribbean. It's just too much. And today we're going to try to encapsulate everything, put everything into perspective, and have this discussion right here, guys. This is going to be a very, very empowering program. Yeah, empowering, because you're going to give you guys information that you probably didn't know. Also, we're going to get updates on what's happening in Antigua, what's happening in Grenada, what's happening in Barbados, what's happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. What the hell is happening? We're going to talk about all of it. But before we jump on it, I want you guys to go ahead and share the program right now, as I'm doing right now. Hey, how you doing? Carnival Monday, yeah, unofficial. You had to say it right, you know. You had to say it right. It's unofficial Carnival Monday. Hey, Gail Charles, how you doing? Welcome. Well, we're saying welcome. That's where you live. You live on Ride Along, so it's not a welcome, actually. How are you doing, Gail Charles? Deanne Fraser, how you doing? Yeah, guys, before we get into the discussion here today, I want everybody to share, because I want everybody to get connected with this discussion here today. There is a lot. There's so much that we're going to be discussing here today. I want to make sure everyone get it. So go ahead and share. I'm forcing to do right now. It's hard to. Right, I got it there. All right. I got this. I got that. Booyah. There we go. All right. Andrea, Trouble, you like so? Oh, Trouble, I like so?
Right now.
Nah, I'm here. And Annie, how you doing? Big up yourself. Thank you so much. Lacey J. Boy. Good evening to you, Brenda Bascom. Thank you so much. Lacey, I see Margaret, Raymond, Deanne Fraser, everybody. Lydia James, how you doing? Thank you so much. Margaret, Raymond, Lacey, I see Gail. Yes, all right, guys, listen. Let me start there, because we have so much to discuss today, guys. But first, we're gonna start in Grenada, because as we said, today is supposed to be today's the unofficial Carnival Monday. Unofficial Carnival Monday. Earlier this morning, we saw the unofficial Juve, right? The unofficial Juve, where sporadic jab was all over. They had jab in St. Andrews. I saw a standoff with police and jab in St. Andrews. There's so many things happening, guys, and to help us understand what's happening in Grenada right now, we have our correspondent and colleague in Grenada. His name is Sylvian Chan, and he's going to bring us up to speed. Chan, how you doing, sir?
I'm quiet, very quiet at this moment. Just locking in with you.
Yeah, Chan, I thank you for coming and chat with us on this first segment here. On this official Carnival Monday in Grenada. If it was like about 2 years ago, Chan, you know, we'd have been playing a job in this morning,
Yeah,
black like tar, you know.
yeah. Well, based on what I observed this morning. First of all, I must say good evening, good evening to listeners and viewers far and wide, and it's a pleasure to be here to give a little insight as to some of the activities that would have taken place today. I as you mentioned Monday night, I was thinking about preparing myself, to go out in a little bit, and do a thing, for Monday night. But as it is said, there's no carnival. There's no carnival. There's supposed to be no carnival. But as you mentioned, unofficial carnival-like activities being taken place.
Yeah, let's start from earlier this morning, Chan. What are some of the activities? What are some of the things that have been happening on this official Carnival Monday? We've seen sporadic video, but you on the ground, so you could assess it for us. What really happened this morning?
Well, first of all, I must say to you, Junior, that I'm on the ground, yes, but I've not really been around too much. I've not been up to the Grenville area, which you would have seen the standoff. I remain mainly in St. George's. But as you said, there definitely were a number of activities, job related. I would say throughout the country. As you noticed, there was in St. Andrews. I noticed some in St. David's. I noticed there were some activities in Guelph as well. I think the vehicles were in Guelph as well. But pretty much the St. Andrews area. So, like I said, I was not too much on the ground. I got a number of footage that was sent to me by friends and colleagues, and that is what I saw, basically. But, I guess the world would have seen what took place. I guess most of what I saw, the rest of the nation would have seen that, and you and, as I said, most of your viewers and listeners would have seen what took place. It's pretty much quiet now. I have not seen anything happening coming in to me. I've not seen anything happening when I'm presently in St. George's, so it's pretty much quiet. I'm not too sure if it's a calm before the storm, or if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, because Chan, one of the things that we got yesterday, right? One of the press release that was sent out yesterday by the Ministry of Health was that there are now 11 active cases of COVID in Grenada, right? But what we didn't see is that the ministry coming out and letting people know, or really pounding it in. They just sent out a press release. I think a couple media organizations ran it, some people didn't. So there was no real emphasis on letting people know that there are 11 active cases. Did people take heed to the news that there are active cases in Grenada, and as a result try to hold back the celebration, do you think?
George, what I believe, I believe that the authorities should have expected this type of behavior. They should have expected this type of activities taking place. And I do believe that the PR should have been beefed up, coming from both the ministry and the police force. It's to this time of the year where we know that Carnival is supposed to be around now. And I believe that we know that some of these activities was going to be taking place. But like I said, the PR arm of the Ministry of Health, I believe that it is kind of weak. And I didn't hear much coming from the police in recent days as it relates to the activities that took place today, that I believe that would have helped in curbing. So as you rightfully said, there was nothing much happening. I didn't see much. I didn't hear much. Maybe the lack of information, the lack of guideline coming from them may have triggered much more activities compared to what took place last year, because this is what I would say, this is much hyper and much more than what we had last year. And I thought that probably lessons would have learned from last year to help in curbing some of these activities. But like you said, nothing to me. I didn't see anything much in relation to
Right.
putting the message up.
We saw in Antigua, St. Vincent, and other Caribbean islands, there have been active protests, right? People going out and chanting no vaccine, and that has been the protest. Do you think that the people, Grenada, the job, came out today in an act of protest against a specific thing? And if so, what is that specific thing that they want to send a message to the powers that be?
I think about the message that was sent, and I heard it discussed in many different forums, that there should have been much more dialogue with the carnival stakeholders, as to see what we could have done, what we could have contributed, how we could have do it. I mean, of course, they were fets, if you want to put it like that. There were some shows that took place within the COVID protocol, but I think by and large, the general job, what I would say, institution, they felt left out. They felt that there weren't much dialogue between them. So I still believe that we could have had some more discussion, as to and let them understand that there is some level of leniency that could have been given in a much, what I want to say, organized way. Because if persons are not aware, I can probably let them aware that if you are permission and based on what you present to the COVID committee and the Royal Grenada Police Force, they could have allowed and would allow you to have activities. And there were a number of activities happening up to last night. I mean, I saw an activity happening last night.
Activities, I'm sure they're not going to be activities, or they would not have allowed any job activities, because job activities wouldn't require the vaccinated, or only vaccinated people. Would they have given permission to the job to do what they do best if they applied for it?
What I understand, Junior, is that yes, the job could have been allowed to do the stuff. That's what I understand. Once they fall within numbers that are allowed. For example, I can tell you that our good friend, a good friend of mine, Slum, has his job city in Monterrey. He's given permission to do his job stuff every Sunday. He has his job venue. And I know that just as how some of the bars and some of the private fete got permission, once you can show and prove to the COVID committee and protocol and the police force that this is what I'm doing, it would have been allowed. I was told that, up to this evening, I spoke to them about it, and yes, it could have happened.
Wow. Again, guys, we're looking back what happened today. This is unofficial Carnival Monday in Grenada. We saw earlier today the jab came out in larger numbers in the countryside. St. Andrews, we saw police standoff with the jab and folks from the folks from the RGPF, and that was ongoing for quite a long period of time as the people from that area was trying to get onto the tongue. I didn't see the entire video to see if they actually, what percentage of the people actually got into Grenville, or if the police allowed it. And another thing, Chan, which we are unclear of, were there any reported arrests from today, from this morning?
I only saw, based on video footage, I only saw one arrest, and I heard of another one. But if you want to touch an arrest, what I know, what I was told, that there are going to be charges. As a result of what took place today, there are going to be charges. There are going to be tickets issued. to persons that they know, and they can identify who took part in some of these events. But as you asked today, I am not aware of any, what I would say, wide scale arrest of sorts. I am just aware of one that I saw, and I heard about another one.
Right, right, right. Thank you, Chan. Thank you, Chan, for the update on what's happening in Grenada right now, Chan. Tonight, usually around this time is Monday night mass. Things supposed to be happening. I heard through the grapevine that somebody say, "Yo, there gonna be Monday night mass happening." You heard anything about that?
No, I haven't heard anything about that. But if it's happening, I'll try to get some live footage, and we can probably have a discussion on that at another time. But I haven't heard any information of any unauthorized or any unusual, if you want to put it that way, Monday night mass activity.
Okay, all right, Chan. Thank you so much, Chan.
You're welcome.
Tomorrow, guys, and our viewers, tomorrow we are going to be having a full-on discussion, right? We're going to be having a full-on discussion on what transpired today, and tomorrow being the last, it would have been the last slap. We're going to go a full coverage on what transpired in Grenada Spice Mass, or unofficial Spice Mass 2021. Chan, hopefully, Chan, we could see in 2022.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
I'm looking
we
forward to
can
that.
have official mass.
It's like I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Thank you so much, Chan. We'll keep in touch. All right.
You're welcome. So we'll be in touch. Okay,
All
God
right.
bless. Be safe.
That's what's happening in Grenada, guys, and so we're getting word that it is still ongoing. There are still jab out on the street in certain areas of Grenada. We didn't have any major arrests, but hey, we haven't gotten any official word from the RGPF either, right? So that's happened today, the unofficial Grenada Carnival Spice Mass 2021. Jab out on the street, stand up with police. No word on major arrests, no word on any kind of major crime or incidents happening today. Let's move in now to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where a lot is happening, and where a lot has been happening. And joining us to give us all the details on what's happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have the opposition leader, Dr. Friday, and of course, lawyer and a representative from the party, Miss K. Bacchus. She's also representing Miss Anna Mae Lewis, who is a young lady who was charged and went on or had got bail today in the case involving the throwing of that boulder that hit the Prime Minister. First of all, I want to show you guys this, right? Because I want to take it really, really slow on this particular case. First of all, I want to say that right along, and any person or every person should really condemn the action, what happened in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Any living, breathing person should condemn that action. Also, it is very important that we hear and look and pay attention to all that transpired, and to ensure that no one is being held as scapegoat to what happened, right? So we got a chance to look at the video, right? We got a chance to look at the video, and we're gonna go through it in very, very, very slow motion. And we believe that we could have identified the person who actually threw the rock, and it is not the person that is currently on bail. First, let's bring in the opposition leader, Dr. Friday. Dr. Friday, sir, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. I would like to welcome you to Ride Along. How are you doing, guys? Dr. Friday? I think that's your second time. We're becoming good friends on this. We are we're doing this thing quite often these days.
Well, Junior, thanks a lot. Thank you for inviting me on, and thank you for taking an interest in what's going on in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You are right to say that, there are a lot of things that have been happening over the past several weeks. And last week, of course, the principal matter had to do with the demonstrations that were taking place in the streets of Kingstown while the parliament was going on inside. And this was an action that was called by the New Democratic Party, Public Service Union, Teachers Union, various other civil society groups who had come together to oppose the legislation that was being brought in that would permit mandatory vaccination to take place in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And so that's the backdrop. And this is something that had been percolating for quite some time in the public domain. And there are other issues, of course. There's the issue involving Mr. Cornelius John and the administration of justice in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the issue regarding crime and unemployment and so forth, and the distribution of stuff from volcano relief and COVID relief. But what happened on Thursday was that the matter was the amendments to the Public Health Act was being debated to, first of all, restrict the conditions under which you can get an exemption from submitting to care and treatment under the Public Health Act. It used to be that you can get an exemption on religious grounds if you say for your own personal beliefs that you could not submit to such treatment, or on medical grounds if you made a statement to that effect. But the legislation now has narrowed it. It has removed any ability to get an exemption on religious grounds, and it has narrowed the ability to get an exemption on medical grounds. Essentially what it says is that at the final instance, if the chief medical officer is not satisfied with the certificate that you got from a doctor that had been approved, then you would have to get a consent, at least a certificate from a doctor who the chief medical officer says you must submit yourself to. Then also there was for an examination. Also there was the removal of a provision in section 43B of the Act that says that the government can have voluntary immunization program in response to a medical emergency. And they removed the word voluntary, so making it so that the government can do a mandatory immunization program. And this is what really scared a lot of people, because, you know, we have very slow uptake in the Caribbean, and certainly in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, only 9% of the population has been vaccinated. This is something that I have worked tirelessly to try to encourage and to promote, but this is where we are. I opposed the movement towards mandatory vaccination because I don't think it is right that somebody, you know, their fundamental rights are being violated, but also because it's not going to work. You know, it's just simply it's going to make things worse, not better, because people are going to resist it. And it's not a situation where you have 70 or 60% of the people who have taken it. You have 9%, so you're going to force 91% of the population to do it. So obviously there's a lot more work needs to be done there. So this is what people came out and protested against. And the protests we've had before, and you know, it was going rather smoothly. There was vigorous protest, but it was peaceful. And then we had the incident with the Prime Minister entering in for whatever reason. The security forces decided that he had walked through the crowd that was protesting, and it's quite obvious that they haven't made a decision. They hadn't made sufficient provision for the security of the Prime Minister, and he was injured. I mean, as to how he was injured, it's still left to be determined, but that was the situation that resulted. And as you're quite right, nobody would condone any act of violence in a demonstration. And certainly that is, I categorically reject it. It's been the approach that we have adopted over the years. And we've had many, many protests in Kingstown that I have led and my predecessor have. And they've always been peaceful protests. We have been respectful, we've been vigorous, we've been determined, but we have always urged people to use their democratic right, but to do so lawfully and to do so in a way that elevates our public discourse, not bring it down. And so that's what was happening up until that point, and subsequently, you know, after the incident had occurred. So it is really something that should never happen, and it should not, and any injury to anyone, the Prime Minister or any of the protesters, that there were two of them who were injured in the protest as well. That is something that should never happen, and we must always condemn any act of violence when it takes place, and I certainly do so in this instance.
Yeah, let me bring in Kay Bacchus, because Kay, the minute I saw the protest, I immediately called Kay, and Kay advised me that she was She was at the protest. She was actively there. Kay, welcome to ride along again. And Kay, could you bring us up to speed as to what transpired? And from your vantage point, you were present there. What actually happened?
Well, thank you very much for having me in, Junior. It's always a pleasure to be here. As you say, this is probably my fifth time or so on your program. Now,
Yes.
as Dr. Friday said, we have had many, many protests and they have always been peaceful. This one was no different. The people have been protesting from about 10 o'clock in the morning, peacefully, outside the Parliament building. And this continued until about after 5 or just after 5 p.m. when the Prime Minister decided to drive his vehicle through the crowd so that he can get to Parliament. But that went well. The vehicle passed through the crowd, entered into Parliament gates, and most of us, including myself, believed that the Prime Minister was safely within the Parliament compound and was making his way upstairs. And then I noticed a lot of commotion, like persons running, being pushed, etc. And then I saw a crowd of persons, police with batons and guards, shields, and there's pushing and tugging, and there were objects being thrown like bottles and little things. And that is when I realized that the Prime Minister had come out of his car and decided rather recklessly to walk through an angry crowd, made more angry by the police pushing and kicking persons. As Dr. Friday said, one person who's now my client was struck in his head, bursting it. It took 3 stitches, and he could not even get the hospital to dress his wound until about 6 a.m. next morning. Another person was struck viciously in his face with a baton. This is Charles, the horseman, and
Yeah.
just because he had a horse there, he was preparing to move it, as the police said, to move, but they did not think he was moving it sufficiently. And a policeman struck him on his cheek. In fact, his face is so disfigured that when he sent me the picture, I could not recognize him. There was
Wow.
a client who the commissioner of police himself, according to my instructions, pulled out of his vehicle, beat him in his chest, and then had him thrown into jail. And that is only about 3 or 4 persons who were actually injured that day because of the action of the police. So, as I said, I did not recognize that the Prime Minister was injured until later when I saw pictures of it. Then I realized that he must have been injured while he was pushing his way through the crowd.
Yeah, I wanna bring your attention. I wanna bring everyone's attention to this video right here, right? I want you to just confirm for me if this video seems authentic to what transpired on that particular day. Just scrolling through, does it look as what actually happening?
Oh,
Because
yes.
I want to make a point to this video because I got a chance to watch the video, and what was alarming about this, what happened right after, was that one individual was charged, which is now your client. So I got
Yes.
a chance, I got this video and I went through this video bit size. I enlarged it. I watched it on my 67-inch TV, and I saw something very peculiar. And I don't know if the investigators got a chance to watch it or if you got a chance to watch it, but this is what I saw. I want everybody to watch this video with me very, very, very slowly. We're going to take it very, very slow. Let's go up to the point where I want you to see. After you could see something was thrown in the air right there. Let's go back a little bit. Let's go back a little bit. Let's go back a little bit, guys. Bear with me. Right there. I don't know if you guys could see that rock in the air right
Yes.
above the head. So can
Yes.
you see that? Everyone see that rock in the air, right?
Yes.
Right. So what from my assessment from this, and let's go back a little bit because we could identify your client in this video as well. So let's go back a little bit. Your client would have been the lady. She's wearing yellow. So when we find the person with the yellow, we'll identify her. Let's see. She's back a
You
little bit.
passed already.
I passed already. I passed
Yes.
already. Okay.
Go back.
All right. Hold
Yes.
on. Let me go back a little bit, guys. Bear with me because we're going to go through this very, very, very slow. Because I don't know if the investigators did this, but we are doing it. We are doing it, and we're taking it very meticulously so far, slow for the purpose of
Okay.
identification. Um,
Okay, you can see her there with her head tied. You can
Right,
see a bit of the yellow, and as you go down, you would even notice that her hands are to her sides.
right, right. So the rock is in the air.
Yes,
The rock is in the air. She is wearing yellow. We're gonna come closer to her picture right now. She's wearing yellow. Keep your eyes on the lady wearing yellow with a head tie. Right? That's her right there. That's her. She's coming further into the frame. She'll get out of the frame a little bit, but then she'll come back straight into the frame. That's her right there.
hands
That's
to her
her right
sides.
there. Correct?
Yes,
And after the stone was thrown, it seemed like the rock was thrown over her head into the crowd.
yes.
Keep watching, guys. Look at this. Let's take the audio. And let's watch it in real time. Rock is thrown over her head. This man that's standing right there seemed, based on when we enlarge the video and pull it closely together, he made a quick, swift movement right at the exact time that that rock was thrown. I didn't see that I'm not saying that he threw the rock, but he made a quick movement and it went over your client's head. So with that being said, and all of this stuff being looked at very closely, how is Anna May now being charged for tossing this rock?
Well, first of all, she's been charged for wounding the Prime Minister. Okay? There is absolutely no evidence that even that rock that you spoke about, that we saw in the video, that that rock struck him, or that that is the rock that struck him. Because other things were being thrown from different directions, as I said, bottles and empty plastic bottles and so forth. So we cannot say that that rock which passed over my client's head is the one that struck him. But we can assume that it could very well be, because we noticed that the police came in the direction of where they thought the stone came from. If you notice, the police advanced and came past my client. They actually passed her and went in the back where they thought it came from.
Yes.
Now, what is very, very, very disturbing to me in relation to Anime Lois is that she, when the police came to her, they just told her that she's the one who felt the rock, that she must, the first thing they said to her, you have to go and apologize to the Prime Minister. Then they told her why they were saying it, and they told her that they have video footage of her pelting a rock. She said she did not pelt a rock, she did not have a rock, but they insisted that she did and took her to the hospital so that she can apologize to the Prime Minister. And in the meantime, Julian Francis was in Parliament saying that they have arrested the woman who pelted the rock at the Prime Minister, and she wants to go to beg him pardon.
Yeah.
Now, we can gather from that that there was some communication prior to them going to pick up my client about this woman being taken to the Prime Minister to beg pardon. Now, it makes me believe that there was no deep belief by the police that it really was this lady. Just that they intended to use her to go and apologize for whatever purpose to the Prime Minister, and then events were to unfold from there. I have information as to what was the whole motive, but I would just say that she was forced to give a confession to something she did not do. You heard her. I saw you playing the video of her when she came out of court this morning, where she raised her hands in the air and proclaimed before God that she did not hit the Prime Minister, that she did not throw any stone at all at the Prime Minister.
Yeah. Let me bring back in Dr. Friday here, Dr. Friday, because right after this, the incident happened, the Prime Minister went on air and implicated you, sir, as being involved or somehow directly involved in the mayhem that transpired. How do you respond to that?
Well, the protest was organized by the New Democratic Party and other social partners, the unions, public service union, the teachers, and 2 or 3 other civil society groups that were opposed to the bill. We have a right to protest on the street, a democratic right to do so, and to do so in a way that is consistent with our democratic traditions and our laws. And that's what we engaged in. That's what I did. And I basically, when I addressed the people who were there exercising their democratic right, it was to explain to them what was happening in the parliament. I spent most of the time in the parliament finding out what was happening with the bill. And that very morning, we had a new draft of the amendment that was being proposed to be debated. And I thought it my duty to go out to the people to explain to them what the new draft was, because that is why most of them had come out. And that's what I did. My actions there in encouraging people to be on the street to exercise their right to oppose the legislation is consistent with our democratic traditions. That's what I did. Anyone who wishes to extend or extrapolate from that anything further or more sinister is totally wrong. You know, we are not going to be scapegoated or in any way feel that we have to now prevent any further opposition to this legislation. That is clearly the intention. And you know what happened? Following the incident, and on Saturday, we've had rumblings and so on in the parliament on Thursday, and lots of stuff going back and forth on social media, veiled threats against myself and other members of the New Democratic Party and persons who took part in the demonstration. Throughout my political career, I've taken part in many demonstrations. This is no different, and I've always advocated that we do so within peaceful and lawful traditions of our democracy. That is what we did on Thursday. I have no apology for that to anybody. And the point is that following that, on Saturday, we had this tremendous overreaction on the part of the police that raided the homes or sought to do so of 11 or 12 persons who they feel had something to do with the demonstration, going into their homes with assault rifles on the flimsiest of excuses supporting warrants where they were, and taking people's private property, their devices, their phones, their computers, and in one case, the licensed firearm of one of the persons who had provided assistance by preparing meals that had been ordered from his commercial enterprise. You know, and this is the reaction that the police and the government had in response to what occurred on Thursday.
Dr. Frederick, question: with the police going and raiding someone's house, wouldn't they have to have a search warrant? Was it signed up by a judge? Was it an official search?
Well, I saw one search warrant for the search of, I believe it was Luzette King's home, that was signed by a justice of the peace, and Kay is, will speak more to that. But the point is that the only common denominator that connected all of those persons was that they were perceived to be organizers or participants in the demonstration. There was no indication that they had committed any offense, and then or now. And so the attempt to show, as the police did, that something sinister was going on was basically what guided or motivated the actions to go and search these people's homes. And they did so in violation of their rights, and remedies will be sought elsewhere. But the point is that this is it is a serious state of affairs in our country when the police, the black squad, armed with assault rifles and so forth, can just go into people's home on the flimsiest of excuses, no evidence to support any of the allegations that they were making that these persons had ammunition and weapons and so forth. Just simply to attempt to intimidate the people who were there on the protests. And that is not going to work, because all it does is it make people realize how serious democracy has eroded in our country.
Yeah. Kay, I want you to speak a little bit to that. Were the search warrant authentic search warrant that was issued by in the correct fashion or manner legally?
Well, to my mind, the search warrants that I saw was not issued according to due process. Now, on the face of it, it may appear to have been correct because it was signed by an ordinary JP and a JP whom I know very well and someone who is very partial to the police for years. They found him and they signed, and he signed it obviously. But in order to issue a search warrant for something like that, to go into persons' homes with armed ammunition, there must be some reasonable ground upon which, and the evidence will have to be given to the JP to alert him to the fact that it is necessary to do that. I am absolutely convinced that no such ground exists. Therefore, those search warrants are arbitrary, not legal, and cannot stand up if they were supposed to be questioned in a court of law. To prove the point, as a matter of fact, today, most of the persons whose phones were taken were able to recover the phones, some of them, and the devices which were taken from them on Saturday. They were able today, Monday, to recover them without any explanation or anything, just to go and recover their devices. I believe the others would go tomorrow, DV, to get theirs too. So the police, therefore, would be looking at some sort of legal action for wrongful detention of persons' private property, personal property, in relation to those search warrants. I do not believe that they were properly issued. As I said, as Dr. Friday said, the only connection between these persons who the police decided to raid was that they were present at the protest and that they were demonstrating, exercising their right to protest, and they are closely connected either with the NDP or with some of the other organizations that decided to protest. There was absolutely not a scintilla of evidence to show any illegality of any kind.
Guys, we're going to open up the phone line right here because I know I'm seeing a lot of questions in the chat. Folks I want to ask, I want to talk to Dr. Friday, want to talk to yourself. So we're going to do that right now. Open up the phone lines so you could call in live. 718-701-5720 is my number. My moderators could also put those numbers in there so we could get those calls coming in. 718-701-5720. We're talking to Dr. Friday, opposition leader, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and lawyer K. Bacchus, Baptiste, and she's chatting with us on what is happening right now in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Again, your opportunity to chime in live, 718-701-5720. I want to play back this clip that was from earlier when he was speaking about it, but I didn't get a chance to play it back. So take a quick look at this, guys.
Just say they lock up the woman. Eh? If you don't know Dr. Friday, they know who it be. And the police don't lock you up. And then begging to go and apologize to Dr. Gonsalves.
You come up soon as we read. You'll have to go and give apologize. You'll have to make apologize to the Prime Minister. You know, the people are so, from them home, if they are free. They don't even wait for say me have a lawyer. From my home straight.
I said, no apologies. Apology for what? She in police custody. She don't get locked up.
I am innocent of this. I am so innocent. I did not fire no stone after the Prime Minister. May God have his mercy upon my life. Thank you.
But the question, Mr. Lewis, that people would ask, why would you give a statement if you did not fire
I was forced. I just said I was forced.
Might be others too. Because I understand it's more than one missile that was... Let me tell you something.
This lady was forced to give a statement. That is not true. Statements are only admissible in evidence if they were given voluntarily. In this case, she gave it without a lawyer being present. She was forced to do it. It is not even true. So I don't know where they're going to go with that. It is not even true. She never had a stone. She never threw a stone. And you know what this shows me? I mean, I've been practicing criminal law for 25 years or more. And many times, the strongest evidence police has is a confession. And when you're going to bring a confession, which is clearly lie and not true, how can we trust the police? This is serious for the administration of justice in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Generally, when you say you have a confession, that's it, you know, you don't need any other evidence. And this shows to us, we have to ask the question, how many more persons were convicted because they had a confession which was wrongfully obtained.
So here you have it.
Yeah, okay, I want to zero in on this a little bit more. We're going back a little bit on it, but we didn't clear that up completely. So your client, which is Anime, which we saw in the video that we showed earlier, it looked as if she was in front of a rock that was thrown over her head. When we look closely, we could have seen she had something in her hand which looked like a bottle of water, like a plastic bottle or something like that. That's what we saw at the point in time. How did she then confess to the police on throwing a rock? How did that happen?
Okay, as she said, and this is something I've experienced many times, and I'm sure that there are persons who would know of situations where persons confess to something they did not do because they were forced and oppressed and threatened by the police. She said the police came to her home. She was resting. They just came, barged into her home, told her she has to come with them to go and apologize to the Prime Minister. Then they said, apologize for throwing a rock and hitting him. She said, I did not throw any rock. I did not hit the Prime Minister. They ignored that. They took her in the Jeep with about 6 other police, including a woman, took her to the hospital where the Prime Minister was, where they kept her there for about an hour or two, trying to get her to go in to apologize, to beg pardon to the Prime Minister. Now, I know that this part about apologizing, Miss Song, does not make sense. I want to share a background with you. First of all, some time ago, our Prime Minister then, the NDP Prime Minister, Sir James Mitchell, was slapped in his face by a protester. And as magnanimous as he was then, he decided to forgive the person who slapped him. And I do not know if Gonsalves he's always trying to copy, wanted to say that he did the same thing and forgive the person. The other thing to note is that she was supposed to be taken to him to have a private conversation with him. And when I put together the fact that he has already said that he was going to find out who was behind this, I have some very grave concerns about what else they could have forced her to say. If a woman can be made surrounded by police to say she did something that she did not do at all, and to actually go with the police to make an apology to a formidable person like the Prime Minister for something she did not do at all right-thinking sentients must ask themselves, what else was she going to be forced to do or say? When we put all of that together with the fact that Julian Francis was in Parliament, even before I had a chance to speak with my client, telling the world that they had arrested a woman and that she was going to beg pardon. You see, they had expected, obviously, that their plan would have succeeded and that she would have gone and begged pardon, and then whatever was supposed to follow after that would have followed. As it turned out, I came on the scene, and even the next day when I went to the police to visit her, they were still telling her that they're going to take her to the police when he take her to Dr. Gonsalves when he came back home. I informed the police that absolutely no way are they going to take my client to visit anybody, be it Gonsalves or whoever, without my consent and without my being present. And after some time, they had her there, and eventually they charged her and sent her to another police station to spend the weekend without bail.
Wow.
It is a wow, indeed.
It is. I mean, it is alarming that when you look and see the evidence of, well, I don't know if there's other things or anyone saw her throwing the rock or what other solid evidence they have, but it seems like if they had strong evidence against her. I mean, I saw this in press release coming out from St. Vincent and the Grenadines that the woman was arrested. It was all over, her face is all over, tied to this. I could imagine the how she's being treated on the
You,
street by.
you see, I didn't tell you the rest of the story. When they brought her back to the police station, they took her upstairs. They took her in a room. They wrote out a confession and ordered her to sign it. And she signed.
Oh wow! So they wrote out the confession and
Yes,
and have her sign it without a lawyer present.
yes, yes. This is very scary. Very, very scary. Because if the police can do that to her, and I'm positive they've done it to many, many persons before, it is not an easy thing to be in a room alone with 4 or 5 policemen around you or women ordering you to do something. Sometimes they tell you, if you do it, we would let you go. Of course, they don't. They get their confession. That is why the law says that even if a confession is true, this is the state of the law. Even if a confession is true, but it is obtained involuntarily, the confession is inadmissible. In her case, there's a double whammy because her confession is not true and it is obtained illegally.
Pamela wants to know: can you prove that she was in fact given a confession to sign and she signed it?
Well, it's her word. She's going to witness stand and she'll say it. How did Julia know she did a confession?
Yeah, yeah, she did in fact. Um, Dr. Friday, I mean,
You
Yes,
see,
sir.
let me tell you this.
sorry, go ahead, Kay.
Let me just finish this part.
Yeah,
Sorry, before you come in. When I was asked by her family to represent her, I called the police station as soon as I heard that they had taken her up. And for about a period of 2 hours plus, I could not find her. They said she was not at the police station. Nobody knew where she was. Of course, it turned out that exactly what she said happened. During that period of time, they had taken her to the hospital. When I kept calling the police station on my about my third call, they admitted to me that she's at the police station, but I cannot speak with her because she's busy doing something. When I called back, they said, "Oh, now you can speak with her." She said to me, they make me sign a confession. I could not get her to speak with her.
is the
Everything
police
about this is wrong.
is the police um the head of police? What is he saying? What is he doing? Is he coming against this? I mean, is he having press? I mean, just the commissioner of police. What is he saying?
The commissioner of police put out a release that this woman was arrested and charged for wounding the prime minister. That's what he did. He just put out a release to that effect.
Wow. I, Dr. Friday, how could people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines have trust in the police if we're hearing things like these, giving her confession to sign, having her sign it under duress? How could people now gain trust in the police?
Well, this is a very serious problem for the administration of justice in our country. And you know, this follows upon the whole issue of the shooting incident involving Mr. Cornelius John and the charges now being laid against Deputy Speaker Ashel Morgan and the Deputy DPP, Mr. Karim Nelson.
Assistant
And
DPP.
the assistant DPP. So people already had very serious questions about the way the administration of justice was unfolding in that particular case. And I have argued, and we have said this, we've come out on the streets and protested, we talked about this in press conferences. In the parliament, I was thrown out for basically picking up this issue as to the role of Ashel Morgan in the matter and her presence in the parliament. And we now having had that backdrop, these allegations are being raised here now, and the conduct of the police in this particular matter, as elucidated by Kay here. I mean, and she's defense attorney. She's, you know, experienced. She knows what she's talking about. So this just adds now to public concern about the role of the police, the way in which police operate in terms of how they relate to society, and how they do their jobs. And don't forget as well, not so long ago, a few weeks ago, there was serious allegation made against police about brutality of two young women in the Glen area, and another gentleman on the road. So it's been a very bleak period the last several weeks for the police in this country, and it's very, very worrying for us as a country when you can't rely on the administration of justice and the criminal justice system to do their work in the way they're supposed to. And it creates doubt in people's minds when you go on the street as well. Who are the police there to protect? They should be there also to protect the protesters as they exercise their democratic right, not there to enforce simply the will of the state. And so and of course, the worst of all is what happened on Saturday, when you have something that hasn't happened in this country in what, 50 years, you know, where you've had the police just going into people's homes, you know, with the slightest pretext and taking their devices, their phones, and their computers, and taking away the licensed firearms of gentlemen, and essentially just, you know, terrorizing people, harassing people. And this cannot be the St. Vincent and the Grenadines that we all know and love. The last time this sort of thing happened in the country was way back in the, I think, the late 60s, early 70s, with the persons of who were young progressives, involving some of the people like Parnell Campbell and Kenneth John and so on. This is, we thought this was behind us. This is part of our past. This is part of the history of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I will tell you, we don't refer to it as a proud moment in our history. It always is referred to as a dark moment in our history. And this one now comes upon that and will overshadow that, quite frankly, as we look at the entire context. And it is not finished yet, because all the veiled threats that you're hearing coming from the members of the government, you know, against myself, against members of the opposition, against persons who are demonstrating, all of it is intended to tell us to shut him out and just let things be as they are. But we can't do that. This is our country. When you go too far, the people are going to say, and I've said this repeatedly, they send me to Parliament to represent, and they send all of us who are there to represent them. But when we cannot achieve the objective that they send us to do because we are in the minority in the Parliament, they reserve that right to come in the street and say we will speak for ourselves. That's what democracy is. And if you don't listen, then unfortunately, the protest is going to continue and continue, and people are going to continue to raise their voices until their right to be heard is respected. Imagine this. You have people out on the streets in Kingston on Thursday, spending the whole day there, all of the incidents that occurred. Then you go to the Parliament, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're still going to debate this bill and pass it, when people who were there on the street, who had come to show their disapproval, who had listened to me as I presented the new version of the bill to them, and you will still push it through at 3 o'clock in the morning? What is the urgency? Why is it, if you think that we are misrepresenting it, why not wait until people are awake and able to hear the explanations that the government intend to present, to say that this is why it is the right thing for them to do? Why push it through when nobody is listening? I got up the next day and I getting text messages when people heard that the bill had been passed, asking me, Dr. Friday, did they really pass the bill? And I said, yes. It is now an act of the Parliament of St. Vincent and the Grenadines awaiting the assent of the Governor General. And then it will be enforced as a law in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And people are just amazed, appalled that this actually happened. And so that is where we are. And then on Saturday, the people, those people who came out on the street, you know, are being harassed by the police and coming into their homes with assault rifles, black squad, taking away their personal devices and treating them as though they have no rights in this country. They should not have been out there legitimately protesting against a bill that is unpopular.
Yeah. You know, after the incident happened, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines was quickly sent to Barbados to get medical attention. A lot of people on both sides was very upset, right? And I want to get your view on it. What it says about St. Vincent and the Grenadines health facility, and what does it say about Barbados? For one, the the Prime Minister needed a MRI of sort. Are there any MRI machine that he could have got it done in St. Vincent, or it was necessary to get it done in a foreign country? And why is it not? Why they don't have an MRI machine in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to facilitate people with?
Well, here's the thing, Junior. There's no MRI in St. Vincent. We have a CT scan. I listened this morning on a radio program and I heard an expert, a medical doctor in the field, who said that the CT scan is really the device that you need in these circumstances. That is what you go to first, not the MRI. And the only reason why it's in St. Vincent that the Prime Minister had to go to Barbados is because the CT scan in St. Vincent hasn't worked. We have had experience with this for years. A cousin of mine was in the hospital a year ago, with a very serious complaint, and he had to leave to go to the United States without having a CT scan done. Other persons who have heard similarly, same situation, because that machine sometimes it works, sometimes it isn't. So it wasn't working, and that's an indictment in our healthcare system.
Yeah.
And to have that there, and it happens very often, and most of the people who then are affected, they can't go somewhere else to get the treatment, to get the diagnosis that they need, to get the treatment. And this is a problem that we've been highlighting so many times in this country. A couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, I had to bring to the attention of the nation that the sterilization department at the Milton Katie Memorial Hospital did not have functioning air conditioning units, and they had to open the doors to the hallway to allow the people working in there to get ventilation. This is the sterilization room. For over 7-8 months, didn't have a functioning air conditioning unit. Come on. These are the things that are happening in this country that sometimes are pushed under the rug. And because of the loudness and the bullying tactics from the government, so many people are afraid to speak out. And so many people don't hear what is happening in our country. But we have a right and a duty to stand up. I'm the leader of the opposition. I'm the leader of the party that got the most votes in the last general election. People expect me to speak, and I will continue to do so as long as I have breath in my body. And nobody's going to scare me from doing that.
Yeah, and is it an indictment on Barbados' part now that there are possibly people in Barbados that were sitting there waiting for the assistance of that, and the Prime Minister skipped the line basically, and wasn't able to, or didn't have to quarantine of any sort, and left, and it was just people in Barbados are complaining now, saying that the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines came in and skipped the line in front of people who was legitimately waiting on the same thing that he came there for. So
that is something I've heard raised, but that is something that the people in Barbados will take up with their government. I mean, the Prime Minister of Barbados can offer, assistance, but our Prime Minister didn't have to accept. He could have said, we have a CT scan here, I'll get my treatment in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Leave that to the people of Barbados so that they can get ahead of the line and whatever. But the situation there, I've heard the complaints about that, and that is something that they will have to deal with. But for us in St. Vincent, our healthcare system, this just shows up the fact, that for an injury of this nature, which could have been dealt with, had the equipment been working in St. Vincent, this is what the expert medical commentary that I heard this morning suggests, that is something that says that our system is broken. And for those people who need it, and I give you the example of my cousin, but I'm sure that there's so many people in this country who can give you examples of that, where the consequences are greater, more dire for people who can't get that basic access to that basic diagnostic treatment because the machine isn't working. They can't all fly out, they can't go to Cuba, they can't go to Venezuela, they can't go to Barbados, they can't go to Trinidad, most of them. And some of them, they die as a consequence of it because they don't have access to those basic things. So all of these things are festering in the background, and people are, becoming more and more saying, instead of becoming despondent and hopeless, they're saying, no, we can take action, we can stand up and show that we're dissatisfied with what is happening, and we're holding the government accountable and demand that they do better.
Yeah, Kate, you were going to say?
Yes, what is disturbing to me about this, I spoke with a medical doctor who was surprised to see a man who says he needed a
MRI, walking out like Dr. Gonsalves out of the hospital. He thought that if it was that sort of situation, he might have been in a wheelchair. But I do not say this lightly because the medical certificate which I saw today for Dr. Gonsalves, they call it is minor. And I'm happy about that. I'm happy that it is not a serious injury he got. He got a very minor injury. And according to the medical, it was it is less than half a centimeter, almost a scratch. There is no, the skin, it says, was leveled. In other words, the skin was not broken very badly. In law, you can barely call it a wound. It's almost an abrasion. A wound in law is if the skin is broken, then you'd say, okay, it's a wound. So I suppose in legal terms, it may, and in medical terms, it may qualify to be called a wound. But I am thankful and I'm grateful, and I want everybody to know that the injury is very minor based on the medical I have seen. So minor that it was said that minimal bleeding is what is put on the medical. Minimal bleeding. I was very happy to see that because I know that if this was a serious injury, they will milk it for everything they could and cause more chaos because that is the nature of the person we're dealing with. But when his medical report is made, when it is seen, I personally don't know if it was necessary to make that trip. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I'm happy to report that on the medical, it is described as minor, minimal bleeding, skin barely broken, even skin, more or less. So it's not, it certainly cannot be called that somebody tried to assassinate the prime minister. And I do not think that it is right for a prime minister to put that out there on such flimsy evidence. We never knew. Nobody planning the protest knew that he would even think of coming out of his car, that he would not go into parliament driving in his car. So there could be no pre-planned or even a quick ad hoc planning because most of us who were there on the spot thought that the prime minister went into parliament in his car. So it is malicious, I think, and misleading and dangerous to put out to his supporters that the injury was so bad that it could almost be, it can be termed an attempted murder. I heard him use the words attempted murder in an address and use words like assassination. Those are heavy, heavy words. And I believe when people see the medical, they're going to be alarmed that a responsible prime minister will describe such minor injuries in those well, I don't know what in those terms.
Yeah, but
They
he could
only can be
the rock don't have an eye. So when someone threw a rock, he could have hit someone in the eye, he could have hit someone in the temple. So I mean, it could be deemed as attempted murder because you don't know where the rock is going to hit the person. It's probably good that he didn't have any major scar. He didn't get hit.
that's why I'm saying I am very happy. I was delighted when I saw that it was not a serious injury, that it was minor. I was delighted. And I think it is a very important point to make because I would not like to know that somebody injured the prime minister by throwing a rock in a dangerous manner. Nobody would like to know that. And I'm telling you, I was really happy because I was fearful. I even heard that it took 3 and 4 and 5 stitches. So I was really fearful that it was a more serious thing. I'm happy it was not. And I want people to know it was not that serious. Praise God.
Yeah. 718-701-5720, guys. We're taking your call here. We're looking at what happened in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, what is happening around the Caribbean. Following the protests in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we had protests in Antigua as well. And it seemed as if it has started in St. Vincent. We saw protests yesterday in Barbados, and it's spreading far and wide over with the chant no vaccine because of the mandatory vaccination that is some of the governments are looking to put on the population. People are fighting back against that, and we're going to continue to follow it here. Okay, one other thing I want to ask you about your client, and then I'll get a closing words from Dr. Friday. You got bail today. Could you tell us some of the extent of the bail that was given to your client, Anna Mae Lewis?
Well, yeah, she was just granted bail. There were no conditions attached. It was bail in the sum of $3,000, and we asked for disclosure. So if there is a video clip of what happened, I am expecting it to be disclosed to us by the 31st of August, which is the deadline for the disclosure. And then following that, we had to go back into court on the 15th of September, hopefully for the trial, because my client is very anxious to clear her name.
All right. Dr. Friday, any closing words?
Yes,
here.
of course. Again, I just want to reiterate that the protest action, the people had a legitimate right to be there because they were opposing unpopular legislation that was being brought to the parliament. The government should have suspended any debate on that bill until they had more time to deal with the opposition. I don't just mean the parliamentary opposition, but the opposition that was growing in the country with respect to it. They are now, it's now been passed in the parliament, and they will continue to find that the people of this country are not going to just simply sit down and accept something like this that they are scared is going to have forced them to take the vaccine. As you know, this is something that is a serious problem for us in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the matter of the vaccination. And for myself, you know, it is one that I have promoted, but I am opposed to mandatory vaccination. People must have the information so that they make that choice for themselves. And that is where many people around the region are drawing the line and saying, provide the information, find a way to encourage people and let them make that choice. That's what I did in my own case. The second matter has to do, of course, with this tremendous overreach on the part of the police. This, you know, black squad going into people's homes on Saturday and raiding them. And I tell you that it's not finished because it's going to continue today, you know, and tomorrow and elsewhere. And other persons, they're going to do this because it's an attempt to intimidate people and to stop them from opposing the government. They have done this for 20 years and they think they can continue to do it forever. But, you know, people are standing up and saying, on this matter of my body, you know, first of all, you're telling me I can't get an exemption from any kind of immunization program unless finally your doctor, a doctor that the state tells me I have to go to, says so. And I can't do so on the basis of getting of my personal religious belief. If I may said I cannot accept that treatment, you cannot get an exemption in that anymore under the law. That's a fundamental violation of people's religious freedom and freedom of conscience. And then finally, to amend the law to say that not that the government could impose an immunization program, a voluntary immunization program to set it up, but just an immunization program. Take out the word voluntary. If you don't intend to make it mandatory, why take out the word voluntary? So the people are genuinely fearful of this, and the government will do well to listen. Even though they have passed the bill because they have a majority in the parliament, they will do well to listen, because this is not a matter where you have, you know, a small minority of the persons or even half the population that are opposed to it. You have 9% of the people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are vaccinated. That's when 91% of the people are not. We have to reach those people, but you're not going to do it by forcing them. That is simply not practical. And there's going to be continued opposition to it. And the attempt by the government to frighten people on Saturday, and they will continue to do so, it's not going to in any way stop people from opposing it, because, you know, there's the most sacred thing for you is your body. And that is something that they're not going to let up easily on.
I want you to just explain on one quick thing that you said there, that you're not going to get them to take the vaccine before. What other way? What way do you?
Well, I mean, there's some countries in the world where there's high take-up, but ultimately there has to be much more information provided. There has to be much more, you know, dialogue and consensus. Listen, when this thing started, you know, we told the government, let's work together as a country, as the opposition, civil society groups, bring everybody together, because it's a national crisis. Let's all come together and work on finding a common solution to go forward. We have done this over and over and over and over, because it was important to take the politics out of it, so that people will feel that they can trust the advice that was being given. There's no trust now between the government and the people. In fact, what they have done is everything that we proposed with respect to COVID, when I suggested that we wear a mask, that the CMO mandate wearing the mask in public spaces, just early this year in February, I was mocked by members of the government to say that why you want to wear a mask? You want to make people wear a mask? The Prime Minister himself, had said that people who wear gloves, they mustn't come shake his hand if they're wearing gloves. These are things that when I said that we should shut the border earlier on since last year, in April last year, when the first cases were present in St. Vincent, I was dismissed for wanting to violate people's rights and to introduce Chinese draconian measures. There's so many things that I said, well, let us suspend school for a while. They said, no, people going back to school, and then a week later they suspended school, and we were out of school for over a year. These are things, it's an attitude. It's not just the measures to say, well, this particular measure is going to deal with the problem. We know it's a very difficult problem to contend with. Countries all over the world have had to do so. But when you develop an attitude towards it that says, give the impression that it's not that serious a problem, that somehow, that people mustn't adapt and change their lives too much, that this is something that, you don't have to do the things that are doing in other countries in the Caribbean, and then all of a sudden you go from one extreme to the other and saying that you're amending legislation to make it possible for you to make it mandatory. Then obviously people they're going to be saying, well, how can we trust the government in this? Where are they going with this? And that is where we are now. And the question, the truth of the matter is that people have to, have to get information, and they have to be educating themselves. They have to provide information so them to make informed decisions, not just the disinformation you find on the internet and so forth, and work with them over a period of time to get this done. Because what they're doing now, it's not going to get it done. So all it's going to do is just create more fear and alarm and get the people in the country to feel much more opposed to it, and they will not get the result that they intended. And first of all, people's fundamental rights have to be balanced against any kind of situation of public health matter, and that is something that I don't think they got right. In fact, I'm pretty sure they didn't get right in this bill that they're doing and in the way in which the government is proceeding.
Yeah. Kay, any closing words from you?
Well, just to say that I would do my best to defend the rights of my clients, and that include not only Miss Lois, but also those who were injured, the two others that I referred to, Mr. Finley and Mr. Mofford, who were injured by the police during the demonstration. Like Dr. Friday said, we are resolute, and we will continue to do our peaceful protest because we represent the people and we are the voice of the people.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Friday and Kay, coming on and telling us, giving us some updates as to what's happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We appreciate you guys, and we're going to continue to follow everything that's happening there. As we said, this is an ongoing, it's been happening in Grenada. We've seen stuff in Barbados, all over. So we're following everything that's happening. Dr. Friday, we appreciate you. Kay,
Antigua also.
Antigua, yes.
Antigua,
there was a demonstration there yesterday.
Yeah, we're following all of that stuff. Thank you guys. We'll keep in touch, and we'll follow up with you guys. Thanks again.
Thanks, Judy. All the best.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Yeah, guys. So here we go.
You gotta be firm in this time, son.
I remember, and Caribbean prime ministers have to be very, very careful about what they say, right? I remember a video, well, I remember when it was said, but the video is circulating now, when the Prime Minister of Grenada, Dr. Keith Mitchell, said that he would not support any mandatory vaccination, right? I believe that video, well, I don't want to speak to the exact wording of it, but he said it in that context, right? That he wouldn't support or is not in favor or supporting mandating any type of vaccines. We had Dr. who hold on guys, we're getting a visual problem there. Let me just fix this real quickly. Here we go. Right. So Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, he during the election campaign, he made a comment in regards to the to quarantine and lockdown, and he seemed like he had this nonchalant attitude about COVID-19. Now, a lot of the things are just changing. They are totally 360. I've done a total 360. But people who believed in them at the time still believe in what they said initially. So it's making it very difficult for a lot of these Caribbean leaders to sell the vaccines to the population. And it's making it increasingly difficult every day. Hence the reason why I say around the Caribbean, a lot of those countries, a lot of those islands, they're between a rock and a hard place. I was watching a press conference yesterday from the Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Skerrit, and he is strongly speaking out about getting your vaccination, but he doesn't support mandating vaccines, right? Which I personally think is the right way. Give people information, give them all the information that they need, and let them make that decision. Telling someone that they have to take the vaccine, that they have to mandatory take the vaccine, even in some situations where some people have medical problems. They have medical problems. What will happen to them? And again, I'm not against vaccine, guys. I had the COVID-19 vaccine myself, and I continue to say that. And I think the only way out of this is through vaccination. That is my personal point of view. But at the same time, it has to be a choice. It has to be a decision that somebody make and what goes into their body. All right. This is where we'll wrap up for here, guys. I got to tell you that we are going to be in St. Vincent and the Grenadines next week. We're going to be on the ground in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we're going to be going through we're going to be there for 7 days. So we have a lot of time to go through and see what's happening. And we're also attempting to raise funds. We're teaming up with the organization to raise some funds for the people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The organization that we are teaming up with, let me give you some more information on it. So if you guys want to support, you could go right ahead and support. We'll be teaming up with the Wellspring Leadership Development Group, development leaders for tomorrow, and they will be having this, we'll be working with them to do something good and effective to help out the population, especially in this particular time where a lot of people are going through poverty, and a lot of people still in shelters. And because St. Vincent had a triple whammy, they had, of course, the earthquake, they had the hurricane, and now they have all of this that's happening right now. And it's difficult for businesses, it's difficult for individuals. So we're going to be working with Wellspring Leadership Development to help raise funds. We hope that if you guys could support during the time that we're there, please reach out and support. All right, but we're going to give you guys some more information on that coming up next week. But we're going to be in St. Vincent and the Grenadines for an entire week, going through the island and highlighting some of the things that's happening and trying to assist in whatever way we can. All right, so when all you see me down there, all you, let's, yeah, the volcano, sorry girl, the volcano, not the earthquake, the volcano. I said earthquake, volcano. All right, guys, so we're going to be down there, and I'm looking forward to see all the fans, all the supporters in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We're going to be there for 7 days. We're going to be there for 7 days. Looking forward to see everyone. Also, guys, let me tell you really quickly that we want you to go over there and subscribe to us on YouTube. Go over there and subscribe to us on YouTube, guys. Click that link, and Yes, sorry guys, I meant volcanic eruption. All right, I misspoke. I meant volcanic eruption. So yeah, if you're watching us right now and you want to follow us on YouTube, you want you to click that link right now and subscribe to us on YouTube. Press that bell so when we start, you'll get notification on that as well. Also, you could watch a 24-hour stream on riderslive.com. Click that link, riderslive.com. And also, you could support this program by clicking that donate button that's tagged right at the bottom there. Click that donate button, make a donation towards the program so we can continue to do what we're doing here every single day. All right? That's my time, guys. Catch you guys again tomorrow. Peace out. Bye-bye.
Nobody can drain my energy.
Feeling hungry, grab a snack. Caribbean food delight. Jamaican patties, light and flaky. Caribbean food delight. Taste the difference. Caribbean food delight. Grab a patty, take a bite. Caribbean food delight. Quick and easy, grab a patty, take a bite. Caribbean food delight.
Oh yeah.
Welcome to TD Bank, where you'll find the personalized attention you deserve and the legendary experience you expect. Let's do business. If you are a medical or dental practitioner, contact me to hear about our tailored lending solutions for residential mortgages, equipment purchases, practice-related commercial mortgages and refinance. Visit me at 500 Baychester Avenue to hear more about our full range of personal and small business banking solutions. See you soon.
Williams Funeral Service serve you with dignity and compassion as you mourn. Every day, we embark on the journey of life, and one day, the journey will end. It's on that day that you can entrust the celebration of life of your loved ones to David Williams Funeral Service. Call 718-291-3823.